Hello, my name is Brian Martinez from Group 1. This is my essay. In this section of the presentation, I will talk about the introduction and the Old English period. As we know, English is a global language, and it is difficult to imagine our world without English. You know, movies, music, the internet, international meetings, and airport use it every single day. But English was not always like that. At the beginning, it was a small language spoken only on an island. To understand the English we speak today, we need to look back at the first step of the language, Old English. What is the island? Well, Britain. Well, when the Romans left Britain, the island was open to new people. Around the year 450, in early 400, Germanic tribes came. The Angles, the Saxons, and the Jutes. They brought weapons, but also their language, and that mix became the first English. Later, the Vikings arrived. They attacked villages, but they also brought something else, words. From Old Norse, we have words like sky, egg, knife, and husband. Even in times of war, the language grew, as we can see. Another important influence was the church. Monks used Latin for religion and education, and English borrowed words like school, bishop, and altar. If we try to read Old English today, it feels strange, almost like another language. One of the best examples is the point beautiful, which is the first great point in Old English. Its lines sound heavy and Germanic, but inside them we can see the foundation of modern English. Well, in my essay, I chose to tell this part of the history as a story, not only as a fact, because Old English was more than date and names. It was a period of change with invasion, religion, and literature. That is why I included examples like words we still use today and the point beautiful. I wanted to show that Old English was alive, connected to the daily life of the people, and not just as an ancient language.
Hi everyone, my name is Jose Santos Arteaga and today I'm going to talk about the Middle English. In this section of the essay, we talk about Middle English, a period between the years 1066 and 1450, in which English was relegated to the popular sectors of English society until, due to various social events and a war conflict, it gradually recovered its status and laid the foundations of what would become modern English. Among the most important events of this period, we can find the Norman invasion of 1066, led by William the Conqueror. This historical event was responsible for pushing English into the background, since William the Conqueror established French as the official language of the nobles and the administration. The Great Vowel Shift, which was a gradual process in which the pronunciation of English changed, resulting in a significant discrepancy between the spelling and the pronunciation of modern English. Also, literature and the creation of the printing press. Authors began to use English to write literature, leaving aside French and Latin, and the printing press made it easier to spread this literature. The Hundred Years' War and the Statute of Pleading. The Hundred Years' War between France and England generated a nationalist sentiment among the English, who began to use English as a form of protest and a symbol of unity. The Statute of Pleading, for its part, established the use of English in administrative areas and in matters related to law. We decided to use an immersive narrative in which the reader feels part of the evolution of English, trying to make the words evoke images, situations, and emotions when reading them. In this way, linguistic processes and the evolution of the language stop being something abstract and become something more real, human, and memorable. Thus, the narrative connects past and present, showing that the language we use today is the result of struggles, mixtures between another languages as French and Latin, and resistances.
Hello, my name is Dalma Arias Arias. I am going to keep talking about the early modern English. During the early modern English period between 1415 and 1715, decisive transformation took place in the English language and culture. William Shakespeare not only stood out for his works such as Romeo and Juliet and Hamlet, but also became a reference point for the language by establishing a model of reading that is still in use today. Robert Cowdery added to this contribution by publishing the first English dictionary, table alphabetical, in 1604, and the King James promoted the translation of the Bible in 1611, strengthening the use of the language. This period also saw the Great Vowel Shift, a change in a pronunciation that rendered some consonants silent and established the subject, verb, object as a syntactic structure. At the same time, the Renaissance gave way to the Age of Reason, with figures such as Isaac Newton, who began publishing in English and contributed a scientific vocabulary. In the political sphere, Henry IV was the first monarch to have English as his native language, while Elizabeth I promoted Renaissance values, consolidated English cultural power in the called Golden Age, and resist Philip's failed invasion. Finally, the colonialism spread English throughout the world, replacing local language in some countries and generate its own varieties in others.
Hello, my name is Carlos Eduardo Guerrero, and I will talk about modern English from the 18th century to the present, and also share the conclusion for our essay. Picture a busy port in the 18th century. Ships of the British Empire are moving with the tide, full of goods and also full of words. English sails with them across the Atlantic to the Africa, Asia, and Oceania. In schools, in courts, in a trade, the language started to take roots. What was once the language of a small island becomes to the voice of an empire. Centuries later, the scenes change. In the 20th century, English spread in a new way. Hollywood movies bring the language into the theaters around the world. English songs are played on radios, in homes and streets. And soon, the internet makes English even more present in daily life. Now, people choose to learn English because it opens doors to the science, culture, and opportunities. Today, English is the language of global meetings, business, airports, and science. It works as a bridge that helps strangers understand each other's. But there is also a danger. If one language becomes too strong, others may start to disappear. And with them cultures and identities that are unique. Looking back at the long journey of English, from the first short and strong words of Old English, through the French influence and rebirth of Middle English, to the creativity of Shakespeare and the great change of early modern English, we can see how the language has never stopped adapting. Each word, each migration, and each cultural revolution left a trace on its words. What began as the speech of a small village grew into the global bridge we know today. Reflecting on this path make us value every English class more deeply. We are not just learning a foreign language, but a voice that survived battles, invasion, and revolution of thoughts. Speaking English is, in a way, touching centuries of histories that still live inside its words.